Yeah, it's kind of. have it pointed the right direction.
Oh, I see. There we are. Perhaps now?
Well,
Okay, now I'm coming through. There we go.
Check. Check, check.
Careful now. Careful. I'm going to just explain a little bit.
no bound, are they in the same spots?
You know, just everybody come on in and have a seat.
Do we want them to show them the left?
No, just come on in and have a seat. Who's trying to play with me? Come on in, everybody. Have a seat. There are chairs, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are chairs. All right, so thank you all very much for being here. Today is a little not the normal. We are in the middle of what's called the Teachings Retreat, which is an annual event wherein we take a week and go through Buddhist logic. There actually is such a thing. It comes to us from our Tibetan ancestor named Tsongkhapa, and so he compiled an organization of the sutra teachings in something of a Baltimore catechism, organizing the Buddhist teachings in an A to Z clear path that explains the basic Buddhist cosmological and cognitive framework. So I've been talking way too much. All day yesterday, talking, and all day today, talking. And so rather than rearrange the Zendo and do the things we normally do, I asked folks to let's keep it simple tonight. We're just going to do the daily liturgy, which hopefully everybody has access to. When we do the Heart Sutra, simply stand, and we'll have one of the officiants, it looks like Reverend Kaishin. We'll let them do the officiating, and we'll just stand in place, do the Heart Sutra. And when that's done, we'll all sit together for a while and take it from there. Okay, so Shinyu, please, if you would guide us.
Yes, welcome, and please turn to page 2 in your liturgy books. We'll begin with the Gata of Atonement. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought. Now I atone for it all evil karma ever committed by me since of old on account of my being Nikaya 3 Refuges. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. I take refuge in Sangha. The Five Remembrances. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature of change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My deeds are my closest companions. I am the beneficiary of my deeds. My deeds are the ground on which I stand. Mahayana Refuge. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. In my heart, I take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. May I liberate suffering beings and bring them to great joy. May the compassionate spirit of love grow within me, that I may actualize the great way. Invocation of the lineage. I give thanks for the guidance of my teachers. For the lineage of teachers before them, I give thanks and offerings for their devoted practice of generosity, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, wisdom, skillful means, unshakable vow, spiritual powers, and awakened awareness for my benefit. May their years of life be lengthened, and may their vows be completely realized. 7 practices of the Bodhisattva. I bow down in body, speech, and mind. I offer the best I have to give, both real and imagined, to fill the space between us. I regret and purify all transgressions. I rejoice in all virtues. I request you to remain until total enlightenment. I request wise and compassionate guidance. I dedicate my merit for the sake of all beings. Generating love and compassion. May all sentient beings be free from clinging and hatred. Being close to some and distant from others, how wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will free them from clinging and hatred. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them happiness and the causes of happiness. Bless me to accomplish this. May all sentient beings have the joy that has never known suffering. May they be free from clinging, hatred, jealousy, miserliness, doubt, pride, wrong view, ignorance, and dualistic thoughts. How wonderful it would be. May this be accomplished. I will bring them to this state. Bless me to accomplish this. Please stand for the Heart Sutra. Great Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep Prajna Paramita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness, no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness, exactly form. Sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are essentially empty, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. Therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no sensation, perception, mental reaction, consciousness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought, no seeing, and so on, to no thinking, beginning, no ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance, and so on to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death, no suffering, cause of suffering, cessation path, no wisdom and no attainment, since there is nothing to attain. The Bodhisattva lives by prajna paramita, with no hindrance in the mind, no hindrance, and therefore no fear, far beyond elusive thinking. Right here is nirvana. All Buddhas of past, present, and future live by prajna paramita, attaining anyuttara samyak sambodhi. Therefore know that prajna paramita is the great sacred mantra, the great vivid mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not mere formality. Therefore set forth the prajna paramita mantra. This mantra and proclaim gate gate para samgate bodhisvaha, gate para samgate bodhisvaha, gate para samgate bodhisvaha. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now. Whenever these devoted invocations are sent forth, they are perceived and subtly answered. We dedicate their merits to all members of our human family throughout space and time. We especially dedicate their merits to those who suffer as a result of calamity, cruelty, and war. We especially dedicate these merits to those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated for Zazen. I didn't know we were doing we're doing Kinhan. No, but I was never. Go ahead.
Instead of pin him, everyone please stand for just a moment, stretch. If you want to use the restroom, now's an appropriate time for that. If you have no idea what to do, try this. It's more impressive with big sleeves. You can move in any way you wish. Don't feel you need to.
If you will please turn to the top of page 8, we'll recite the Song of Covenant together, and then following that, we will do the Gatha on opening the sutra. We're going to do the Song of Covenant first.
So it's just so crazy.
Ready? Here we go. We, the Daishin Kokuji Sangha, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the wisdom and compassion we seek to cultivate by practice, and with deep gratitude for the teachers of this lineage and our connection to one another, covenant to support each other by upholding the precepts of doing no harm, practicing good, and actualizing good for others.
Thanks again, everybody, for being here. Please sit comfortably and arrange yourself somewhere that we can see each other. As I was mentioning a bit earlier, we are now in the midst of what's called the Teachings Retreat. And it's a time annually where the community gathers and goes through a very clear and concise, relatively explanation of like, what the heck is the Mahayana about anyway? And it's a lovely thing to do. It really is so nourishing and so important. And as I was casting around with, is it on? Oh, I think it's on. Is it not on? Yes, no, I'm getting conflicting signals from the truth. Let's see. I think so. Can you all hear me or not? No? Okay. Oh, there. It seems like we're getting there. How's that? Now you can hear me? Nice. Okay. So I'll start over. So yes, we've been set to the business of kind of an understanding of, I guess you could call a cognitive framework for the Dharma. And it's not something that Zen is particularly skillful at. In fact, the Zen tradition maybe seemingly doesn't place a whole lot of value there, really. I mean, after all, Bodhidharma is noted to supposedly have said Zen is a special transmission outside the scriptures, not reliant on words and letters, a direct pointing to the human mind and awakening to full Buddhahood. So, I mean, right there is kind of a disclaimer, right? I thought, well, what would I talk about tonight? And I opened the Blue Cliff, and, you know, I've been working through these, and these are a little bit like, I don't know, you pull a tarot card or something, and it's like precisely the situation. You know, it is quite something when a student is working through the koans, how the koan that they're working with starts showing up in life, or what's showing up in life actually is in the koan that they're working with. So, like, check this one out. Blue Cliff Record, case 58. Couldn't explain for 5 years. The main case. A monk asked Master Joshu, "It is said that the supreme way is without difficulty. It just rejects discrimination. Isn't that just a cliche for people these days?" Master Joshu said, "Once someone asked me, and I simply couldn't give a sufficient explanation for 5 years." There's a comment on this. An elephant trumpets, a lion roars, flavorless talk blocks people's mouths. South, north, east, west, the sun soars and the moon courses. Kind of interesting, right? The Zen master is asked about this teaching phrase, a mind slogan perhaps, born of the union of Taoism and the teaching of Buddhism. And the response is, well, you know, people have asked me, and for 5 years I couldn't explain. Maybe you could even say it better and say, you know, I still don't know what to say about that. Very interesting. After all, this is supposed to be a teacher. Don't teachers like talk and explain things? Isn't that the currency with which they trade? Isn't that the marker of a good teacher, one who can explain everything? Well, no, not in this case. In fact, there's a really very rich exchange that's included in the Vimalakirti Sutra. And the Vimalakirti is a character who was a layperson, not ordained, not a monastic, not a priest, but whose wisdom and understanding was said to surpass Manjushri. And so the Buddha heard that the layman was unwell. On cue. And so the Buddha summoned Manjushri and said, "Hey, I hear that the layman is unwell. I want you to go look in on him." And Manjushri said, "No, I really would rather not," because he was scared. He was intimidated by the wisdom of the layman of Vimalakirti. And Buddha said, "You'll be fine. Go check in on him for me." So Manjushri wiggles his nose and twinkles or whatever, and appears at the bedside of the layman, who's in fact not well. And he looks at the layman, and the layman looks up at Manjushri. And after some exchange, which is very interesting, Vimalakirti says, "You know, Manju, I need to show you something. Come with me." And from this sickly deathbed, he snaps his fingers and twinkles his nose or whatever. And they and the host of bodhisattvas that accompanied Manjushri just for safety, they went up to a universe up in the zenith, a higher universe, a higher world system. And they appeared there. And in that place, there was many other bodhisattvas and many other Buddhas that were there. And the Bodhisattva Vimalakirti said, "Oh, how wondrous this land, how wondrous. Tell me, how does the teaching happen in this place?" And the bodhisattvas of that realm said, "Oh, in our world, what we do is we take the young'uns and we sit them underneath the awakening tree. And when the awakening tree blossoms, the young'uns just have to smell the fragrance and boom, awakening." Wow, how cool. Then they ask another bodhisattva, "Oh, in your world system, how is the teaching?" "Oh, in our world system, there's this wonderful taste, and we have this beautiful spice, and when the person's at the right time, we give them a little taste, and upon perceiving of this taste, awakening comes." Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And it goes on and on like this with all the different senses. The problem was that the bodhisattvas in those realms didn't have much of a gig. Everything was pretty cool. There's no job openings for bodhisattvas because no suffering to speak of. And they noticed that the bodhisattvas that were brought from the laymen, these were considered to be like the heavies, because in this realm, the earth realm where we come from, it's like, ooh, there's a lot of suffering there. Only the heaviest of the heavies dare practice in such a realm as that. Meanwhile, the earth bodhisattva is like, "What? This is so cool. We'd like it here." You know, it's said that in ancient times, human beings used to grab a handful of dirt and come to awakening. Interesting. Anyway, eventually the question came round. Tell us, Vimalakirti, in your world, how does the Buddha teach? Is there a taste? Is there a smell? Is there a beautiful sight that people see? How does it work in your realm? And Vimalakirti said, "Oh, in our realm, the Buddha teaches using words." And they went, "Oh, words? Oh, you mean he has to talk about it?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's how it works where we come from." And at that, the entire group was astonished, and Vimalakirti brought everybody back. Words are tricky business. Somehow the mystics and the contemplatives and the sages and the saints and the wise ones find a way to squeak past, at least for a little bit, the trap of language, of me and you and up and down and right and wrong and this, not that. Some way to break free of this conditioning that holds us without our knowing it, without our permission. This way of wording our experience that keeps us in this untrue suffering, this untrue separation. A monk asked Master Joshu, "The supreme way is without difficulty, it just rejects discrimination. Isn't this just a cliche for people these days?" Joshu says, "I still can't explain it." Is this a failure? And if that's not a failure, if it's a success, why would we spend a week talking about the Dharma? Why are we talking now? Well, because we are creatures of language, and we need to use words skillfully. Now, the main case cannot be understood just by thinking about it and cognizing it. However, if we don't have some way of understanding the Dharma, then as deep as our experiences may be, they will be insufficient. So we have to have direct experience. Reading about Kensho will not suffice. reading about meditation will never do what meditation actually does. It cannot. You might be able to describe it, its benefits, its risks, its joys, its sorrows, its histories, its traditions. And yet, if you're not really practicing your contemplative way, you're just talking about it. And so we can mistake the explanations and words for the experience and shortchange ourselves. So Zen is really good at not accepting that. That is just not going to cut it. You know? But at the same time, the Buddha himself talked. He explained the Dharma. Joshu right here is using words, saying, I can't explain it even today. That's words too. So how about it? It's kind of worth knowing that in Joshu's time and culture, the basics of Mahayana Buddhism were known. They were something he didn't have to explain. It was something that was in the culture of the day. And for those of us who did not grow up in such a culture or in such a tradition, there is much that we mistakenly assume. We take our own experience up to that point and we project it onto the wisdom tradition and see it in our own image without knowing. And so it's very important to know what the basics actually are. So we talk about these things. For those who pursue Jukai, taking refuge, there's an extensive discernment and formation period. And this is very much on purpose. So we're talking about these things. We discussed what are the qualities of a good student. We discussed what are the qualities of a good teacher. What are the qualities of the Dharma? We discussed how precious it is to be human, to be able to encounter the Dharma, how fortunate we are to even encounter this thing, let alone to be able to somehow recognize it and somehow resonate with it, and then be able to actually engage with it. I mean, this is an astonishing miracle, really. And then a preview. Tomorrow we talk about death. It's just when you're feeling how wonderful and how perfect this human life, we can encounter the Dharma, then the next teaching is, and time's running out. You have enough time in a human life to encounter and to realize and to practice, but not enough that you can goof around for a long while. Goof around some, it's good for you. But after a little bit, it's like, all right, let's tune in. And from there, we discuss setting up the environment so that you can actually encounter the teachings correctly. And then once all that's understood, then we actually go through the liturgy that we just did together, which is where most people would expect we'd start. But actually, we're not even ready to start discussing that until the pre-preliminaries are understood and the preliminaries are then handled. So, an elephant trumpets, a lion roars. Flavorless talk blocks people's mouths. South, north, east, and west, the sun soars, and the moon follows its track. We have a little time, and I promised a few folks that I would be open to some Q&A tonight. So perhaps someone can grab the handheld, and if anybody would like to have some dialogue, now would be like one of those times. They're all too smart.
In your recent trip, you were meeting with a lot of teachers from a lot of different traditions.
Yeah.
And I know you really kind of emphasized how hard everyone's working to sort of listen to each other and see the other way. Is there still that aspect of running into anything like between traditions, like just absolute, horror that, one would talk about something like awakening or talk about something like emptiness? What do you encounter that with any of your peers?
Well, I would say we're past the horror at this point. I mean, we've been meeting every 2 years since 2011. And so the cadre of us that persist in this foolish endeavor, we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit. We've rubbed elbows. We have some sense of each other's tradition. But yeah, we do have actual real differences. And it's very interesting. I asked, we have this cross the line process. You can ask a question, and if it applies to you, cross the line, this kind of thing, kind of a mixer kind of move, right? And there was a lot of folks there from different Zen traditions. And I asked the question, cross the line if you use koan with your students. See? And it was very interesting because from my perspective, Doan, myself, and one person from a Korean tradition might be able to say yes to that. But interestingly, almost all the Zen people went across, even those who I know. Interesting. So that's kind of like a live wire, right? Very interesting. So there are some differences. There also another big difference is that there are those who say that if you don't go and live residentially for substantial amounts of time as a monastic, you're not doing it. So that's an interesting perspective, But we've gotten very good at listening and finding common ground, which we have a ton of, honestly. Some of the stranger ones for me are the ones that are relatively new. There are some traditions that are less than 100 years old, and I kind of have to go, wow, why? But it's interesting. It's interesting. But more conversation than horror. Yeah.
Just ask a question.
Yeah, please.
So, in that world where you smell the fragrance of the tree and you come to awakening,
Sounds nice, huh?
and if this world of suffering didn't exist, would you wish that world for your students, for us? What would the role of the teacher be?
Oh, no, we're all exactly where we're supposed to be, honey. We're exactly right where we're supposed to be. We're here in exactly the right place and exactly the right time to do precisely the work that only we can actually do, right? So, if there actually is such a system and there is such a place, then I'm happy for them, but no, I'm quite happy here because there's real work to do here. There's actual suffering, and that means real compassion can happen. It's in the suffering, it's in the resolving of suffering that the heart of compassion and wisdom and love can actually blossom. Because I know the pain and the fear of this life I can be of use. I wouldn't wish to be in a place where that wasn't an option.
It seems to me that it's in the area of suffering that we are most united, because no one escapes it. And so I feel that as we journey together in this world, we may have many differences cognitively or whatever, but when we touch one another through the suffering that each experiences, I feel that that is a point of contact, real contact as human persons, and also the challenge for myself, for probably each of us, to be aware that that is the touchstone for all of us to become more human, to be more, as you said, compassionate, caring, and bring healing and ultimately life to one another. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, the common human denominator is suffering and the wish for happiness. And what I would say is that suffering, as it's understood in the Buddhist tradition anyway, can actually be overcome. Pain cannot. Disappointment, sadness, this is part of our existence, but actual, I suppose in technical Buddhist terms, dukkha, which means pain is inescapable. If you're aging, you're aging, and if your knee isn't 20 anymore, you know it. And but suffering over it is a different thing. And so the tradition puts a lot of emphasis on understanding what suffering is and being able to actually alleviate it and help others. But that urge towards happiness is something that everyone has in common. And there are different routes that make more sense for different folks. And that's all completely wonderful. I delight in the many ways and approaches.
So I've attended the last 2 days of the teaching seminar, and for anyone who has not been able to be there because of other commitments, I would very much encourage you to focus deeply on the recordings that are being made. I'm here to cast my vote for words, and I will say that this is my first chance to attend a service with the community, having heard the words that have been spoken by our teachers in the last 2 days. And it has made a remarkable difference in my experience. And I'm sure that if you hear those words, you will have that experience too. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Yucho.
Hey, and tomorrow's death, so
Yeah.
something to look forward to.
Beautiful. So I'll just conclude by saying that the teaching retreat comes to us from our Tibetan inheritance. It's called the Lam Rim, meaning stages of the path. And as Yucho just mentioned, it is called an ear-whispered tradition, meaning that it is in the hearing of these teachings from student to teacher, to student to teacher, to student to teacher, that something can unlock. And so, of course, we do it. It's no substitute for meditation and actual insight and practice, but it's a really important additional way of practice. So analytical meditation and actual contemplative meditation. May we all enjoy our practice. May our suffering be alleviated, and may we see the commonality across all the different traditions so that we can all help this world that so desperately needs it. May it be so. Thank you, everybody. Let's conclude with the Bodhisattva Vows.
Illusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. Let's, instead of restoring, we're going to leave it as it is, so it's all set for tomorrow. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our service. And don't restore the Zendo.
Were there any announcements this evening?
That's a really good question.
There's a teaching retreat going on. If you are seriously just hearing about the teaching retreat now, if you're here, you're welcome at that as well. It's running 9 to 5 with lunch provided pretty much through till Saturday. On the Thursday and the Friday, you can also join us for, we have morning practice from 7 till 8. You have
I just wanted to let everybody know that Saturday the 30th, not this Saturday, the next one, we're getting together here at 10 to prepare the space for Setcho's ordination. So we just need people who can do some light, moderate lifting, moving things around and cleaning, making it all nice for Setcho, for the celebration on Sunday. So thanks. Oh, there's information on the Facebook page, like an event you can say you're RSVPing to.
When is the RSVP deadline?
What's that?
When is the RSVP deadline?
When is it done?
When is the deadline?
I don't think there is a deadline. Just do it. That's it.
And Saturday night, after the teaching retreat, will be Arts Night, hosted by our own Reverend Kaishin, and come with whatever form of artistic expression you have that doesn't endanger anybody. And please, no shooting yourself out of a cannon, for instance. So, please, visual arts, poetry, music, whatever. And do we have a potluck before that?
May you come just to be entertained?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll find a way to utilize you for the entertainment as well. But there's not a potluck beforehand, but it's kind of come and hang out, and so maybe bring a snack to share. But there's that. I'm basically here for the next month, so I live here now. Very briefly. And one thing I'm going to throw in, there's also this regular monthly games night that's coming up on the last Friday of this month. And I'm really pushing a chess opportunity right now. If anyone's interested in playing or learning, we're going to have 3 or 4 nice sets here. And I think what games night usually is start 7 o'clock, 6:30. I don't know. I live here, so it's just all happening around. But that's the last Friday of the month if you're interested in coming. Thank you. The
Arts Night, Saturday night?
The Arts Night? I think we said 6:30, 7?
Doors open at 6:30, and it's the performances in fact have to start at 7, according to Zuise, who emailed me yesterday to verify that.
I'm glad people are remembering the event I created. That is great. Anything else?
Stop talking.
Do not restore the Zendo.
It's just pop up.
Thank you.